Well, it ended up being a beautiful day. Got the crank in, got the cam in. We are now on to rods for assembly. Like I said, this should get machined and cut if you were doing a really nice, fresh rebuild on this. I am not doing that. So instead, we're doing a down and dirty, super quick, slap it together, fire it up, send it down the road, rebuild. New rings, new rod bearings, new main bearings. And that is pretty much the extent of that. I wasn't filming it when I started doing this, but basically I just started taking the rod caps off. Got everything labeled here. I am going to do the piston flip again on this block. I did that on the other one. It ran fine. I didn't notice any major differences other than the lifter that decided, well, the two lifters that decided to not actually lift anything and ate the cam. So we're going to do the piston flip again. Tons of stuff on the internet about that. I don't really know. It worked. It didn't make any more clattery noises than the ones that I put together the normal way, so we're going to try that all over again. Basically, I'm just taking the caps off, cleaning off these as best I could. I did realize, while I got these apart, I doubt this is going to show up on camera, but these are TRW pistons. I believe this was an HO motor, so I think these are the forged ones. I'm not a Ford expert by any means, but they're different than the rest of them. They do run the metric rings, so we'll find out as we progress. I'll look that up at some point, but they are TRW pistons, which is kind of nice. Factory Ford TRW pistons. So, got these. I'm going to keep going. I'm not going to film that. Look at any of the other teardown videos on piston rings and everything else. I think I got a couple of them up there. Ford specific, but they're all the same. Piston on anything will end up pretty much laying out the exact same way. I'm going to finish prepping all this, get the bearings put back on the rods and the caps. And then maybe if I have time, I'm going to try and throw this back in there. Got a ton of stuff going on today, so I don't have, you got about 45 minutes left, so we'll see how far I can get. And get everything laid out. And who knows, maybe we'll have a bottom end done. Probably not. Okay, all the pistons are disassembled and taken apart. Well, the rod caps are all cleaned. Everything else is done. I did check all of these. Every ring is spinning free and proper. Normally, if I'm doing a more thorough rebuild, I would go through and wire wheel all the carbon off of the crowns on these. In this case, I'm not overly concerned, only because this is a quick freshen up. I do have a couple of extra blocks and some other crank components, and realistically, even this being a roller cam, I do still want to play around with this one. So what that means is I just got to get this thing running and driving. That's all. Running out of time for that. I've said that a million times. So we're just going to slap this together. If I got to pull the motor and go through and change things down the line, that's fine too. I have no problem doing that. I rolled the block out because we're going to throw the rod bearings in all of these, re-ring all of these. I'm not going to, I might do one piston on camera. I do have a video how to re-ring them. So look for that. I don't remember. It's under the Falcon or 302 engine build, rebuild, tear down, install something or other. If you're interested in trying to figure out how to put rings on and haven't done it before, I'm going to slap the piston rings together and hopefully try and drop these in the block before I have to get rolling. Okay, re-rung on all of the pistons, and luckily for me, it is a 4-inch stock bore, so I get to use my fancy Amazon tool once again, which is great. I'm going to drop the rod caps, or the rod bearings into the caps and the rods, and slap this together as quick as possible. Just kidding. I looked at the clock. I'm already running out of time. So what I'm going to do is reassemble the rods and pistons, lay them back in the box that I just took them out of to clean with the new bearings in, and then basically have everything prepped. All I got left is going to be just loosen up the 1-2 threads I'll put on the caps just so I can keep them all organized. Loosen those up, drop the pistons and rods back in on the crank, and then the bottom end's pretty much done. So what I like to do on these, coming right out of the box and just wiping the bearings down real quick, I like to pull these out just a hair, not bending them, just a little taut. Tends to keep them a little tighter in the actual rod. And when you come around to the bearing, line up your tang, drop that in, put your other side down, and there you go. Just a little bit of flex on there, not bending anything, not changing anything. All that does is help to pinch that in place a little bit better. There you have it. roller shells are in, or the rod shells are in. Now we just got the caps to do. So same deal on that. Just open up the new package, make sure the bearings are all clean. Double check to make sure they all say STD on them when you pull them out, which they do. And drop them into the caps. Again, you don't want any oil or lubrication on the back side of these bearings. When you drop them back on the cap, they go tang to tang, number to number. So I got a number 4, and the 2 tangs on both bearings meet up on the same side. Take my 2 nuts for the rods, drop that right on top just so I can keep it all organized. And that one's done. I'll keep going along with those. Put them back in the box and we'll come back later when I can get the pistons and rods back onto the crank. There we have it. All the rods have new fresh bearings in them. So next step is going to be lubricating the crankshaft journals and then lubing up the rods. Slap this right back together, but all the tedious stuff is done. Pistons are all back together, re-rung, ready to go. A little bit of oil on the cylinders, a little bit of assembly lube on the crank, assembly lube on the bearings. Zip, 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 torque, torque, torque. Should be about ready to go. Check back next time I get around to working on this, either later tonight or maybe tomorrow.